very quick car.
Indeed. Not quite the case for the Ferrari here that Vinicius Machado is piloting out there at the moment, and Ferrari certainly a very docile car at the best of times. It'll take care of you as long as you take care of it. Vinicius across the line for his first lap, a 109.3, and that puts him up to P15 as it stands. Mikhail Kotab making his way down into first turn with a Ferrari as well. And he's in 21st at the moment as Matthew Thomas goes P3. What a fantastic time that is. The Australian setting a 106.7 as well. Time's looking pretty close up at the front of the field, with Sulasalmi only a tenth ahead of Jakub Tiborek, with Matthew Thomas in third, Guo Chen in fourth, and all of those guys covered by just over a tenth of a second. So it's going to be a very competitive night here as Matthew Thomas filing down into the double hairpin in the middle of the lap. And this is his second lap, Brad. Let's see if he can improve.
Yeah, so far P3, that's very good. He's only got 0.011 of a second to get second place off of Jakub Tiborek, sorry. So very crucial qualifying here. It's a very, very short lap. It's 1.1 second is the gap between first and last. Everyone putting in qualifying laps, which is not something we always see. A lot of people favor the back of grid start, but around somewhere like here that is narrower than a lot of tracks we've been to and is so short and sharp, qualifying means a little bit more here than it does a lot of other tracks.
Well, Matthew Thomas will be happy with that. He's taken second with that lap, just 4 thousandths ahead of Jakub Tiborek. So Vinicius Machado, once again, let's see what he can do. Can he improve on his current P16 time? Well, I'm seeing that he is on lap 3, so I don't think he's actually going to get this lap time in. But a very challenging section of this circuit that the Ferraris are making their way through at the moment. It's almost a chicane, but it's more of a flowing S-bend. And if you play your cards right, you only need to have a slight lift so you can carry a lot of speed onto the straight towards the final turn. Kotab then out of the final corner. What's the time going to be for him? It's going to be a... that doesn't look like a time that you would see, a 105.8. 107.5 is the time there for Mikhail Kotab. And unfortunately, he still stays outside the top 20. But as you said, Brad, all drivers setting qualifying times in this session, which is certainly something that is rare in terms of official racing on the iRacing platform. Tony Sulasalmi then is going to start from pole position alongside Matthew Thomas in the Mercedes. Jakub Tiborek and Guo Chen make it Lamborghini and Porsche for row 2. Then it's the pair of BMWs, Adam Matecki and Mark Grauer, rounding out the top 6. We got Oliver Brandt and Sashathana Leonardi in 8th place there, with Elliott Smith and James Muirhead making up the top 10. The top 12 rounded out by Dennis Vika and Filippo Maria Distrutti.
Harry Marvin starting in one of the other Lamborghinis from 13th, with Lionel Collin in one of the very few Mercedes, the only Mercedes, in 14th place. John Agius and Vinicius Machado in 15th and 16th. Timothy Russell and Joachim Bruckner in 17th and 18th. Eric Verle and Martin Hilligers round out the top 20.
And then it's Oliver Furnell, Mikhail Kotab in 21st and 22nd. Top 24 rounded out by Michael Reutmann and Patrick de Saucy. And then it's Tim van Grunsven and Pascal Prenzel who round out the field here. Yeah, 1.3 seconds covering the entire field here. So it's going to be jam-packed out there at Summit Point. And we'll have to wait and see when the drivers elect to come into the pit lane, because this pit lane being so short and the track being so short as well could certainly open up the pit window, make it nice and wide. And I will say we do have 2 Mercedes in the field. The highest qualifying Mercedes is Matthew Thomas, who's starting in P2. But we'll get ready to go on our formation lap in just a few seconds' time, where the drivers will have a bit of time to see how the track has evolved since qualifying, if there's anything that they need to look out for on their run towards the start-finish line. And it's often a bit rare that we see drivers actually starting formation laps on the start-finish line in this series, because we usually race, Brad, at the really big tracks like Spa and Monza, etc., that deposit the cars on the straights leading up to the final corners in some places.
Yeah, it's very unique indeed. Of course, this track is only 3.2 kilometers, and a big chunk of that are very long straights. Minus that middle section is really the only slow point on the circuit. Of course, turn one hairpin. It's a very wide hairpin, so it is a very quick lap, as we saw in qualifying, and it's a 3.2 kilometer circuit, and the pit lane is all of 11 seconds long, excluding the stop time. So we could see a 20-second lane transition with pit stop here, which is absolutely insane. Imola a couple of weeks ago was 45 plus seconds, so it's a same length race, but because of the length of the track, it's a massive pit window, and with such a short pit lane, it's really, really going to make it quite interesting to watch how these guys race around here with the pit stops as well.
Absolutely. This corner here is going to be one of the big points around the lap where it's easy to make a mistake. That gravel trap off to driver's right on the exit of the corner. Easy to pick up an off track through there. It's a flat curb, so it won't unsettle you too much, but you have to be careful about how you exit from that fast left-hander. Only really two left-handers of significance here. There's that turn, then there's this one. You have got another left-hander before the end of the lap, but it's pretty much flat out in these things, and the only thing you really need to do through it is lift off the throttle to set yourself on a course through the penultimate turn. And the drivers are demonstrating it right now. Those curbs in this section of the circuit you're going to have to avoid as well. And definitely make sure that you don't run over the curb through that corner either, because there's grass right by the circuit and it's a pretty prominent curb, so it will very easily unsettle you. So, pace car going to make its way into the pits now. The iRacing Porsche 911, as Tony Sulasalmi will assume control of the field. Out of the final corner, we should expect him to go, and Matthew Thomas is right alongside him. But just before the final turn is when Sulasalmi decides to go, catches everybody out, and Matthew Thomas is going to immediately have to try and defend here from Jakub Tiborek. But they've got some overlap as they come down the start-finish straight as the green flag flies. Will Tiborek beat Thomas into the braking zone? We're already seeing a BMW behind popping out for a move. Tiborek up the inside, and that was Mark Grauer in the BMW that made an incredible move up the inside of Guo Chen to take that position, as it seems like a reasonably clean start from the rest of the field just behind. The front of the field making their way through the left-hander. How much gravel is going to be kicked up by these cars? A fair bit, it seems, as everyone's just kissing the edge of the sand trap there. And, running wide a bit is Matthew Thomas, and that almost allowed Eteki and Grauer to go through as there is a car off the circuit. That is Leonage down there in the Lamborghini, and something has gone very wrong for them down at the braking zone for that hairpin. One of the choke points of the circuit for sure. Very easy to get unsettled. Grauer, he is really pushing right now, trying to get past his fellow BMW of Adam Eteki as there's a Porsche off the track and into the wall heavily. Oliver Brandt, my goodness, that car is destroyed.
Oh, we nearly had a clean lap then, but contact was Elliott Smith in the McLaren.
Oh
Was
no, Grauer. Oh my goodness, that was just a complete send there on the inside. Grauer trying his best to make some moves here, but unfortunately, I don't think he's made a fan of Mr. Eteki. Eteki was going defensive down into the first turn there, and Grauer just got into the back of him when they got on the brakes. So I think Eteki's going to be incredibly angry with that sequence of events. But either way, we'll move up here. We're actually going to go on replay here. So there's Brandt going into the wall just behind. Don't know how he went off the track, but Brad, this is the kind of incident between these two BMWs that you'd really have to think is certainly avoidable. But we'll take a look at what happened to Brandt first.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I think there was net code with the, yeah, big net code with the car in front of him. You'll see that now coming into the right-hander. It's a big bit of net
Ooh.
code, and it just anyone that races iRacing knows as soon as you're on the grass, there's no stopping it. Especially on the current title, it's so difficult, especially at that speed, to get any form of rotation or deceleration through the car. And then, yeah, that was a massive impact with the fence. And obviously, I'm very glad that we don't broadcast the driver chat because Adam Atiki was not happy at all for that turn one contact.
Yeah, I don't blame him. As there's contact between Smith and Melvin. Melvin sent off the circuit, and oh, he's come back on right in front of the field. He has to reverse onto the runoff area. This has been a chaotic first few laps here at Summit Point. We're only on lap 3, and we've had a good portion of the field taken out. So, the top 3 continue to streak away as Mr. Grauer holds on to 4th. There's Guo Chen behind him in the Porsche. And these guys have all broken free of the rest of the field. We have Adam Ateki and Sashathana Leonage in the pits. Due to those incidents that we've seen out on track, it seems that Oliver Brandt has retired as well. There's a slight defensive move from the Ferrari, but up the inside, oh, trying was the Lamborghini there, and the BMW goes off.
I don't know. I don't think that you would call that contact. That was very just unfortunate timing for those guys. There was enough room there, but just forced one car wide, and gravel's not much better to turn on than grass, unfortunately. So quite a few places lost there, but no damage it seems. But I'm sure he's not going to be happy about being pushed back as far as he has been.
Yeah, it was Mr. Verley, Eric Verley, getting hit wide by Oliver Furnell in the Lamborghini. It seems that Furnell was just a bit too hard into the first turn on the inside, and that's how the contact happened. Either way, move a bit further forward here towards the final turn, and Furnell trying his best to hold off against Russell and Reutemann. The 2 Lamborghinis chasing the Lamborghini. Then we got a Mercedes and 3 BMWs all in a line. A 4th one just trailing off there. Verley trying to make up some positions as it's side by side between Reutemann and Russell. And Reutemann ultimately getting it done there on Timothy Russell, moving up the inside.
16 seconds currently covering all the cars still running. If, say, Sulasami comes in, he's going to be put out right near Eric Verley or Joachim Bruckner in the 17th, 18th, 19th positions, which is almost race over for him because he's going to be stuck in traffic that is not substantially but still marginally slower than him, and that's going to cost him in the long run. So those tenths of a second you can make up as we get very busy through turn 5, 6, and 7 at the moment with all of these BMWs at line astern. But yeah, that pit stop is going to be very important to get that timed right.
Yeah, so who's going to blink first is the big question, and with how tight this racing is, anyone who decides to make the first move into the pits is going to be certainly a very brave human being, but it's quite the train that's forming now of all of these positions. Seems that it starts with John Agius in position 8, just making his way into turn 1 at the bottom of the screen there. And then we've got the long line of the likes of Smith, Furnell, Reutemann, Russell, Lionel Collan with Tim van Grunsven, Martin Hilligers, Eric Verley and Joachim Bruckner all in a line in their BMWs, very close in the midfield here. Also reasonably close at the front was Sula Salmi, still managing to hold off the advances of Jakob Dybarek and Matthew Thomas. And, well, Thomas will be ruining, I think, that initial start because Sula Salmi, going before the first turn, ended up catching them by surprise. So he's probably going to be hoping that he'll be able to potentially win this on strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think many people were expecting Sulasami to go as quickly as he did because you would think that'd be counterproductive with the draft because it's not a massive straight, but it is still the longest straight on the circuit. So you would think he'd kind of delay that as soon as possible, but he got the gap that he needed and caught Thomas watching, and Yeah, I agree. I reckon he is ruining that, being caught off guard by that because he's now 1.1 seconds off the lead instead of half a second like Tuberik is in front of him. So there is still, what do we have? 31 minutes left of racing. So a lot of things can change in that time, as we've seen time and time again. And he is within that 1 second of the leader. So a quicker pit stop, a later pit stop, or an earlier pit stop might win him that race. So I guess, yeah, that's when he will try and win it on strategy. But I don't think Summit Point is a track that you can purely win with pace and passing because it is so difficult to get runs around here unless someone makes a mistake through turn 10 that they head up to right now. So I'm not sure. I guess it's in Thomas's court right now.
Yeah, it is indeed, and you also got to consider the short length of the track means that lap traffic might be a problem for the leaders later on as the pit stops cycle around and we have drivers involved in incidents and falling off the back of the pack. So these guys are going to have to keep an eye out for anyone coming out of the pits ahead of them that might interfere with this battle. Sulasalmi starting to feel the pressure now from Tiberek, and with the draft down the front straight, these guys are all very close in the opening part of the circuit, but they do spread themselves out a little bit when they get to this section, the twistier part of the lap. Keep in middle of the road, turn in nice and tight for this left-hand hairpin, and then try and keep it to driver's left as best you can to open up the entry to this. And then try and avoid that curb on the inside. Tiberek does clip it, doesn't unsettle him too much, but you've got to be careful not to get the grass on the exit of that section. And there we go. They are all spaced out as they make their way to the final turn. And the cycle repeats this event. So Thomas now potentially sees a move in his sights.
We were talking about it before the program about how because this is a track that's so difficult to pass in, the fuel strategy might blow out in a sense that we weren't expecting because Kubrick and Thomas don't really have anywhere to go. They're staying with Sulasami, but passing is incredibly difficult. So um yeah, they could be saving
Ooh.
fuel, and that could give them a quicker pit stop and ultimately win them the race. So it's not necessarily about passing here, but using the car in front of you as an advantage to save the fuel that you need to get a faster pit stop later in the race.
We saw Tim van Grunsven there going off the circuit. He just clipped the grass on entry. So, and it looks like there's been a further incident just after that. Had a coming together with another BMW, James Muirhead, going very aggressively into the hairpin and just turned him right around. So a couple of drivers reasonably unhappy with how things are going here tonight, I would imagine. And perhaps there's going to be a few people saying, why is Summit Point even on the schedule? The track is the problem, not the driving. Oh, there's been contact there between 13th and 14th places. It's looking very leery here in this pack. The BMW of Martin Hilligers on the inside of Lionel Collin, and he is through. Collin, though, has to think about Eric Verley and the fast-approaching Joachim Bruckner as well. There's a lot of shuffling going on in this pack as Oliver Furnell, it seems, has fallen back as well. Furnell, remember, he was up a little bit further than that. Now he's under pressure from Smith, who's under pressure from Reutemann, from Russell, from Hilligers, from Collin, from Verley, from Bruckner. This is a proper train we've got here.
Yeah, it's no longer John Agius that's holding these guys up. It is Oliver Furnell. Furnell is up as we see Elliott Smith going for that early pit stop. I was thinking this earlier that these guys in this really heavy battle pack, they're not going to come out in traffics like the leaders might if they pit early. But Elliott Smith has had good pace all race as we see. Who was that in front of him?
Dennis Vika going off the circuit at the last turn.
Oh, that was Liana coming back out of the pits after his damage was fixed. But yeah, for oh god, now I'm lost. For Smith to come in and take that early pit stop could be a massive gain for him because he's not going to be in traffic for a while. He's now in front of James Muirhead, who had that contact last lap at the turn 5 hairpin. So for him to come out, he had
Right, Fonty? Righto. Okay. Mhm.